Hi, my name is Noel Miciano, and I am a user interface designer. A little background about me. I went to school at Chowan University in Murfreesboro, North Carolina, where I majored in graphic communication. So what that is we dealt with the huge printing presses. So we would get work from graphic designers, and we made sure that it's printed correctly. And we had this web design class that I totally fell in love with. This was back in 2001, graduated in 2002, so the web has evolved into something more than putting a Photoshop layout together with HTML. Right now I work for NBT Solutions. We are a small geospatial consulting firm up in Williamsburg, Virginia. So anything with maps and data, we create web apps for. I'm also the designer and co-founder of TutoriALL that won first place in the first Start Norfolk. And TutoriALL is a do-it-yourself mobile app where you can pretty much take a picture of a step. Let's say you're baking a cake. So you take a picture of step one. Here are the ingredients, and then you type ingredients in your mobile phone. So the problem that we solved at the time was you don't have to take a photo with your digital camera and then hook it up to your computer. So everything is done through your mobile device. So you just finish the steps, and then you can share, publish on Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest without leaving the app, which is awesome. Brian Wells is the developer and technical co-founder over there. So if you have any questions, he is right there. So, TutoriALL.me is a free app. So this is version 1 of TutoriALL that we created for Start Norfolk. So basically we demoed what Brian pitched. It's pretty straightforward. You create a tutorial, we search for tutorials, and you just do the step-by-step picture and description, and then you publish and you're able to see your steps. So after Start Norfolk, come on clicker, this is our version 2. Notice that we changed the UI a little bit, like we got rid of the Apple logo because we don't want to get sued. But we want to keep the learning aspect of it. Like, so the background is a chalkboard. And we also included a sign-up form in the initial screen, and it's still pretty much the same where you do the, thanks Gigi, where you can take a picture and post text and publish and share. It can scroll through different categories. And this is version 3, so you'll notice that we pretty much slimmed down the look and feel and made it more sexy, you know, and we changed the logo too. And we got rid of the sign-up form because we thought that was going to hinder people from using the app. So everything is, you can use it straight out of the box. Like you can scroll through tutorials or create your own just like that, and you can publish it. We're probably up to version 4 or 5 now, because we've done other changes to the UI. Like on the third screen right here, you'll see all these buttons. We got rid of those. So everything is clean and simple and easy to use. And here are some, sorry. So based on, we used some data and feedback, and we made changes to the UI. Brian, in October 2012, that was still like the old version, right? The one with the green background? Right. So when we pushed out the new UI, the one in the last screen in November, like our downloads went up. And then we made more changes based on feedback and whatever data that we collected. In December, we had more downloads. And so on and so forth till January 2013. And I forgot to ask Brian if he has the data for February and this month. Do we? Okay. It's there somewhere. All right, so this is my presentation for active designers. My name is Noel Miciano. You can find me at Noel1215, that's my birthday. on Twitter, and nmiciano.com, where I have outdated portfolio pieces. Come on, clicker. All right, so I would like to share a story on how designers can be proactive. And are there any designers in here? I know some of you are. Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Cool. All right, so at one time, clicker, come on. Oops. All right, so my boss Mike called me up and he asked me, hey Noel, can you please design, make our wireframes pretty based on what the business came up with. And I said, sure, okay. And then as I was working with Photoshop, I created some personas on how people will use this application. So I had some ideas, and then, this can't be it, so what else can I do? So I called Mike up and like, hey, can I go out and interview people that are going to use this app? And he said, sure, go for it. And at the time, nobody in the building, at least in our division, nobody goes out to talk to people, as far as I know. So I just went ahead and did it. So I stepped outside my comfort zone. So designer, we're introverts. So I just talked to people using this app who might use this app. So I got on Facebook. So I did some stalking for about a week, 2 weeks. And I found like some groups of people, like in Virginia Beach. And I emailed them saying, hey, my name is Noel, and I'm a designer, and this is our mobile app idea. And I was wondering if you guys would like to do an interview, and I'm going to buy you lunch to the restaurant of your choice. So I said, what gives? I said free lunch because nobody contacted me back. And I said, I'm not selling anything, so I made sure to tell that. But, and only 2 people responded to the free lunch. And luckily they were both in downtown Norfolk. So I met with both of them separately, and I showed them a static mock of our application. And then they were very receptive, and they had a lot of feedback. I ran out of paper. And I wish I had like a little tape recorder or something like that, because they gave a lot of feedback. So after that, I went back to my boss and said, these are what I found. The interview was awesome. Interviews are awesome. And the people were happy to talk. They were so glad that somebody came out and reached out to them just to get their opinion on because they are the customer, they are the clients, they're going to be the people using your app or your website. So they were very happy that somebody reached out to them. And as it turns out, my ideas on efficiency were off. Even my personas were off. So I was pretty stoked about that. And it was shocking at first, but I was happy that I went out and talked to them. And in doing so, we avoided doing unnecessary work and spreading development resources very thin. So my boss went back to the powers that be, and so they made a whole new set of wireframes and goals for this mobile application. So as a designer, this was very empowering to me. This was very empowering. And designers in the room, you have no idea how much influence you have. And there should be a seat in the meeting table for designers because you are helping build this thing. And the end. Don't worry, there's more. So you're probably thinking, okay, that's great, but isn't that a job for a user experience designer? How many have seen the words user experience or user interface or UX, UI? I know you students have. I know you students have. So So you've typically seen this, this diagram or something similar to it, where user experience is at the center of business, strategy, technology, and design. And to some designers, this diagram seems daunting. You know, that's a lot of stuff to do for just one person. And in the field, we have a name for this. Anybody know what that is? I mean, you've seen the Craigslist ads like, hey, we're looking for designers who can make something pretty and code and do back-end stuff and then do marketing and pretty much sell the our product. So does anybody know what that term is?
Superhero?
Close. Close. I'm sure you guys have heard about the elusive unicorn project. But there's one problem. But there's one problem with this, is that they don't exist. They don't exist. Except, you know, when Linda and I get together and work on our, I guess if Linda and I had like adopt kids, then, you know, we'll train them to be unicorns. But you might be thinking, but I'm not a user experience designer, right? But in my opinion, yes. Yes, you are a user experience designer, especially for designers in the room or developers. You're probably thinking I'm crazy, but I don't think I am. All right. So I think we are user experience designers to a degree, because for one thing, we are already users. And user experience, it deals with our feelings toward a product or service. And as designers, we put ourselves in the shoes of people, the clients, people using our products and services, so we can design with empathy and relevance to that user. And we can wear multiple hats and grow into a role until a specialist is hired. So we get to learn different things. We may not be that unicorn, but you can wear that little orange cap. Right, and also user experience doesn't only apply to digital products. It applies to, does anybody know what that is? Yes, I hate it. Like, I'm a tech-savvy guy, and if I can't use it, then I feel bad for like the 90-year-old grandma from Kansas using this thing. So it's horrible. So I had to have my friends show me how to use it. So it also applies to anything tangible. User experience can also be, you can find it in customer service. I read a story, something about Zappos. So a customer calls them and says, hey, I'm looking for these shoes. So the rep says, I'm sorry, man, we don't have those shoes, but I can direct you to one of our competitors that has the shoes. So, so they may have lost a sale, but I think they gained that customer's trust. And she wrote a fantastic review, and they're still gonna get her business because she trusts them. All right, so designers, where do we start being proactive? So we can start with whatever projects we're working on, because you can spot usability problems. Because if you see a layout or UI problem, chances are, if you have a problem with it, chances are somebody else will have the same problem too. And you may have ideas on user interface design and how to make this layout better. And you may have ideas for engagement if you work with marketing and advertising, or if you're into just user interfaces in general, and you're into like the human psychology and how they use the web or apps. It may also improve the graphics and typography. And ideas are found everywhere. I surf a lot of websites, like design sites, and I use some apps just to play around with them and see what works with the goal of the app. Books and magazines, I read a lot of comic books, so I could get ideas from there too. games, video games, TV, movie, get all sorts of ideas. When I get the rare chance, I would go to a museum and look at art and look at color palettes and see what works. And also being active and socializing, talking with people and just showing them what I have. Like here, what do you think about this app or this website? I would like to get your opinion on it. So it's nice to bounce ideas off of people. Like for example, Robot Wars is a website that sells robots, right? So I'm a designer and I work there. I was hired like 2 weeks ago, and I'm talking with Brian, who's like the head honcho. And I'm like, hey, Brian, I may have some ideas on how to improve your website, and what do you think? So, and I'll pitch the idea to him. I need coffee. I need coffee, I'm sorry. I'm sorry? Sure, that'd be great. I don't have $1 though. So I'll pitch an idea to Brian and see if it works. And if I have the time, I could carve out some development time, like doing like a HTML prototype or just a mock-up and maybe some way test it. So prototyping, there are 3 levels of prototyping. One is low fidelity with rough sketches, and nothing beats pen and paper, getting your ideas down quickly onto a piece of paper. Post-it notes, if you're working on a website layout, you can write this page's home page, then put another page on a post-it, and you can easily move those post-its around when you're playing with the layout, like a sitemap. Whiteboards and windows, I see people like writing on them their ideas. And there are medium quality wireframes. You can use Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, PowerPoint, and Keynote if you just want to do simple lines and text just to illustrate a flow of a website or app. There's also Mockingbird and Balsamic. I think they're paid services, but I'm usually accustomed to high quality or high fidelity detailed Photoshop mockups. And recently I'm doing more prototyping with HTML and CSS, so it's great practice for me. When I met with Louis and Harry, Jerry, those 2 people, when I showed the prototype, I used a Realizer app. So what Realizer does is you sign up on their website and you upload your static screens to their website, and you download their app. And your images will show up in the app, and you can link those static images together. So it's like a functioning prototype, let's say on a mobile app, a mobile phone or an iPad. The service was great. And I mean, I'm not a developer, but this was awesome to me. So I was able to link those separate screens together. And recently, Pop, prototyping on paper, was a neat find. I accidentally stumbled upon it while browsing design websites. So what you do, you sketch out a wireframe, a piece of paper, and you take a photo with your phone. And then you do that for each screen, and then you just link the screens through the app, which is pretty handy. And it takes out that extra step of uploading your static images to a service like Realizer. So popapp.in is very handy. So, and you don't have to be a designer to be able to use this. So designers, what happens next when you share your idea? The goal is to just start that conversation with someone, whether it be your boss, you're another developer or designer, product developer. Just get that conversation going before the next meeting. So let's say, all right guys, meeting adjourned. So in the next meeting we're going to talk about this. So instead of waiting, you can just be proactive and like jot your ideas down and present them before the meeting. So when you do have that meeting, they'll have it in the back of their minds what your idea is, and you can just like reiterate it during that meeting. And not all ideas make it, but they can be used for other projects too. So now you have a template, which you can easily tailor to whatever the next project is. And just rinse and repeat. It's very easy. So how can young designers grow, especially the students here? I read a lot of design blogs, and there's millions of them. Just go Google, and I bookmark a list apart. That's a good website for designers. Smashing Magazine is also good. And I talk with developers a lot, and I'm very fortunate that I'm surrounded by them. And I didn't become a better designer if I didn't interact and talk with them. For me to be able to design something effectively, I need to know how they do their job, so I can do my job. Also, talk with other designers to bounce ideas off of. Like, let's say Alex over there, he's better at typography than I am, so I'll bounce typography ideas. He's shaking his head. So he's shaking his head. So just pretend you're like uber better than I am at typography. So I'll ask you for ideas and tips, because I'm not. So and you learn things every day. Talk with product developers and business leaders, and like how, let's say, how this website is being used, how this app is being used, like how could we make it more effective? And also join hackathons. Start Norfolk is a glorified hackathon in my opinion, and I enjoy them. And it, especially the first Start Norfolk, it really pushed me as a designer within a limited amount of time to design something decent. And why should we care when there's people doing this stuff already? Because we are partially responsible for what we put out there. And if I have the time to complain about how ugly something is, I surely have the time to do something about it. So, because otherwise you could end up with something ugly like this. These are fake websites, by the way. I just made them up in Photoshop. And they're all made up. Just to illustrate a point. And that concludes my talk. Hopefully I didn't go too fast, running on no sleep, but if you have any questions, please now's the time, or you can catch me later after my nap. Thank you. Questions, comments? Nothing?
Take a sip of coffee first.
Albert, you raise your hand.
No, I just love you.
Thanks.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I'm not a developer, and I like that you showed ways of creating a prototype. That works for me, because I can take my idea,
Right?
Because I know what it should look like, and I know maybe what it should do, because I'm a user, right? Like you mentioned, so that makes it easy for me to go, hey, this is kind of what I want it to look like.
And now you can make it interactive using Pop,
right,
or Realizer. But yeah, I mean, when I was looking through tools, I didn't realize that we could use PowerPoint. Like, duh, you know? Lines of text, pictures, boxes. Any other questions or comments?
Is that also social media with the Pop app, that Pop app and those other apps that you share?
Realizer?
Yeah, Realizer. Are those almost like you can share with other people and they can comment on it, or is it just
that's a good question.
Okay.
I know with the Pop app, they give you like when you download their app, it's a free app, and they give you 1 or 2 free accounts, And if you're an early adopter and you just share it on Facebook or Twitter, they give you like 6 free accounts. Right now, it's not a paid app, so if you get the chance, download it now. Linda, I see you like typing stuff on your phone.
I was telling Ian things to go over here.
Oh, awesome.
Thanks for calling me out though, Noel.
So yes, you can use your crafty pencil drawings and make them interactive using Pop or Realizer.
Where can we find out about some more hackathons in the area?
Say what?
Where can we find out about some more hackathons in the area?
Facebook, Silicon Anchor.
Any specific place?
Any specific place?
Yeah, like any specific place on Facebook. Like we actually have a page, like hackathon, marathon, or I don't know, something like that.
Your UX.
The UX Norfolk group. We may be planning a sort of a hackathon type thing or designathon in the near future, so look out for that. But usually Silicon Anchor and Start Norfolk, like those Facebook pages, they usually post events like Drinks Downtown, and it's a great way to network and meet people and see what's going on. Okay, questions, please, comments? Love my shirt. Edwin, you got a question?
I do. And right, so apps, right? You know how when something becomes trendy, we use it a lot, right? And then we start to model like commercials off of that and stuff like that. Now you see commercials where they look like they're touch screening, but they're really promoting education, ACPI, and all that, right? You know, so we utilize touchscreen in our life, right? So then they'll try to create a commercial that looks like they're doing touchscreen in a commercial or the movie, you know, to make it
like CSI.
Yeah. So it starts to translate into marketing because they know that it's something we do every day. They know we're using touchscreen a lot more now, right? So this is my question, right? Apps on phones have kind of, you put it in a box now. Whenever you see an app on a phone, you kind of see a picture of an iPhone, and you see that, like this Pop app, it'll probably show you an iPhone, and it'll show you what your app will look like inside that iPhone, right?
Yeah.
My thought was, I'm organizing a festival in my community in Craddock, and we have a square, and a park inside the square. And it's a neatly designed square, right? I almost thought, like, how neat would it be? I'm trying to design the layout. I'm more of an event guy, social thing, right? A social guy, community advocate. So I'm thinking of the square is already kind of geometrically shaped. What if I designed the layout of the event almost like a user app? You know what I mean? Like when people come into the event, you know, there's buttons, and instead of buttons, they're actually sections of the event. You know? I don't know. My mind is moving, but really what I'm thinking is into real life. Yeah, like this room would be set up like something that's really user friendly. You know, we do that every day with things with feng shui and all that. You know, when you walk into a building, they're making buildings more user friendly. When you walk in, the signs are strategically located in places, and so I feel like apps are pretty. What do you call it? Apps.
User friendly?
They're user friendly, but they're all kind of looking the same. You know, we're used to hitting buttons. You know, with Windows and all that. When we're on a computer, we're used to a certain look when we look on a computer screen or we look on a phone. And so I'm wondering if apps will start to translate into our daily lives, into our marketing, into how we present things in stores when we walk in there and things like that. You know?
I mean, hey, if Hollywood can do it with CSI, maybe sometime down the road.
Yeah.
I would say like talk with Paul Singh and get somebody.
Yeah.
Paul Singh.
Paul Singh.
Yeah.
Do you
I don't know.
know?
I know it's mixed up in my mind, but I almost
Talk
see
to me
that
afterwards.
In the future, I feel like the way we develop apps and programs for people to use on the computer are going to translate into our physical lives. Yeah. I don't know.
Brian,
Where do you see yourself
evolving to?
as things, new products come out?
Do you mean me personally?
You personally, or design-wise, or whatever it is? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years? Oh gosh. Hopefully still with a job. I'm kidding, I'm
You've
kidding.
done websites,
I think the next step would be getting more into development, and I've talked with Travis about that, like using Enyo. But yeah, I think development is the next stage for me. You're shaking your head. But there's always room for improvement. I mean, you're a developer, but you started out painting signs, didn't you?
yes.
You were into the arts, and now you're a developer, and so is Linda. Like she was an art major, and now she's a Java developer. Did I say that right? JavaScript person, developer. So, but yeah, I think that's the next stage for me, personally and professionally, would be getting more into development. Like I started to mess with jQuery, and then when I did my prototype, one of the developers was like, "Well, we're gonna use Enyo." So, and here's you're shaking your head. You're funny. So yes, there is room for growth. Since Start Norfolk, I got bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. So, and just inspiring designers and just talking with people in general and talking about my ideas and talking about your ideas and see what we can do to merge our ideas together. But like I said earlier, designers don't realize, especially students, they don't realize how much power they have with the advent of startups. Yes?
Do you think it is more important to diversify and be a jack of trades than to focus on one set of skills, as in I'm just going to do typography and graphic design?
If you focus on just one thing, I think that's going to hold you back because the world is changing. Some people say that print is dying.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a generalist. Let's say, I'm a designer and I want to learn some development, like what you do. Even low level, so I can prototype something so you don't have to. Right? Joe.
I kind of have a comment going on that, which is I think it's important to have a familiarity with a lot of things. Maybe a skill with one specifically, but then familiarity enough so that when you come across a challenge, you then know enough to know how to research that and learn quickly, and then get the job done.
By trade, and I love to draw. First and foremost, I'm an illustrator. I'm not the best illustrator, but that's what I love to do. And then I got into web design in college, and I just fell in love with the medium. Like my first website, I got so crazy with it that I have this tiled image, animated GIF image, like the ones you would see in MySpace. Really, really obnoxious. So, but there's nothing wrong with playing. Scott. I know, but I got better. I got better and learned not to do that anymore. So there's always room for growth. All it takes is practice and just talking with other people and just finding out why you shouldn't do things. I could get a t-shirt from this. So no more animated GIFs.
We all went there.
Yeah.
I love animated GIFs.
Any other questions? Kyle.
Yeah. Okay, so you said that as a graphic designer, you are also a user experience professional. But that's a huge workload to take on, doing all the UX and the graphic design as well. Where do you draw the line between a graphic designer's UX responsibilities and actually being a user experience expert? What would you say are the top things you should concentrate on as a graphic designer in regards to UX?
Regards to user experience, me personally?
Yeah, well, what do you feel?
Sorry, what's the question again?
Sort of well,
Coffee.
no, it's okay. And if you need me to clarify, it's fine. Just you said as a graphic designer, you are also a user experience professional.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you draw the line between your responsibilities as a graphic designer and being a UX professional, because a UX, professional has so many responsibilities, such as ideation workshops, stakeholder meetings. You have to do user testing and iterate on that over and over again. So where do you draw the line? Because taking on all those duties as a graphic designer, I feel, can be pretty demanding.
Yes. Okay. So this is why we work in teams.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you will have people working in your teams with an overlap of skill. Let's say you and I were both designers, but I have more experience in, let's say, dealing with people, and that's what I like to do. You don't like to deal with people, so let me take care of that. But just getting yourself familiar with like little things like that, it can help you grow and do your job better. But yeah, that's why we have teams of people working. I think that's the best answer I could give you right now.
Cool. Thank you.
Albert.
I'm looking at you. I said nothing.
Students, any questions? Mylin? Gonzalez? Yeah, I know I messed up your name last time. I'm so sorry. Byron? I know you're not a graphic design student, but if you have any questions. Patricia? No? Jeez, students. Now's the time for you to ask. Developers, questions? Okay.
Where do you start, like as a student? Like right now we have class and essentially juggle, and you have like other things like trying to figure out how the whole user experience thing works. So it feels like it's a bit overwhelming from this in this place. So how do you juggle that? Where do you start?
How do you
What
juggle?
Focus on.
Well, since you're a student right now, I would say focus more on school. But if you can carve out the time to read some blogs, some books, and lucky for you, I'm your uncle. So you can ask me whatever. So you can ask me or anybody of my friends just questions. And when I was in college, I survived, because you asked me this question before, how did you survive college? And I said, I lived in the dorm. And I spent a whole lot of time in the library, and juggling things is not easy. My junior year, I had 23 credits, and I was a resident advisor, and I was doing volunteer work within campus and off campus. And I was in a few plays, so I really was active in school, just so I could get to meet people and grow. And it's difficult to juggle, but I think that you should just focus on your studies right now, because you can learn things when you do internships. And that's how I pretty much learned, is through work experience. Like, I'm not a formally trained designer. I didn't go to design school. I just knew, when I went to college, I just knew how to draw and use a typewriter. I didn't even know what a hard drive was. Like, I'm that person who's always the last person to leave the computer lab, because at that time nobody would help me. Like, some students would be in their little cliques. So I had to force myself to sit down and read a book and just ask. But it all depends on your schedule and how to juggle it. Like, if it seems too much for you, then don't do it. It's not gonna go away, it'll still be there. So I would say don't worry about it, don't sweat it. Focus on what you need to focus on, which is graduating. And and when you do your internships, that's when you learn. That's when you learn. Hopefully that answered your question. But different people have different ways of juggling things, because each person's situation is different. Like, my situation from you is different. Like, you have school, I have work, like I have a long drive, but
2 days a week, yeah.
but juggling depends on the person, really. Alex, question? Travis, question? Linda, question?
It was good.
Michelle,
Good question.
question? No?
Scott?
When did the unicorn very good? How was it?
And that was very proactive.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I just felt like drawing.
I have a question. Since there are developers in the room, I kind of like to kind of hear what they have to say too. As a student, we have more access now to the Adobe Creative Suite than ever, and there's more programs now than ever too. And so when we get into designing for the web, you can almost get lost in all the tools and programs available to start with. I guess my one thing is Flash dead. That's a good question.
The last time I used Flash, it was in, I would say 2003, after I graduated. And have not touched Flash since.
Let's hope it's dead.
What's the place of Flash?
Like Flash is good for some things like video and games.
So right, so to replace that, let's say not, I guess maybe not in the game aspect, but I guess as far as maybe motion graphics for the web, Edge Animate, is that
What?
viable? The Edge Animate program?
I've
Is
never
that-
used it.
never used
Anybody?
It's JavaScript in HTML5. So you want to replace it
Better
for
app
ActionScript?
for students to learn, because basically it's, as I progress now, I kind of have to teach myself.
I've never used it. I'm just aware of it. I couldn't recommend you on the highs and lows of it, but if you want a replacement for ActionScript, I would roll with JavaScript. I will get killed for this, but I firmly believe ActionScript will come back in a huge way in a few years. But right now, JavaScript is paving the way for it. So ActionScript is like the language that powers Flash. So no, I would not stick with Flash at the moment. And I think that the tool you mentioned probably abstracts a lot of the technicalities away, so you can probably just jump right in. So yeah, check it out.
Well, most of the JavaScript work that's to be done is not like learning a tool or a program, but you have to learn the language. And there's a ton of JavaScript frameworks which make sort of Canvas and drawing easier. But ultimately, you have to, if you're going to use HTML5 JavaScript, you have to learn how to program JavaScript, which is a very generalizable skill anyway. And so it's probably worth the investment. It is more of it's a developer skill, more than a designer skill. But it's worthwhile, and that's where it's at right now. Whether or not ActionScript is coming back.
So another, right, a good place to go to learn more about JavaScript would be what?
Developer.mozilla.org.
There you go.
What is it? MDN? Developer.mozilla.org. That's where I would go to start off. Or you could always go to w3c.org.
I learned everything I know on Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
What about Code Academy?
Code Academy is pretty good.
Academy's free.
They have JavaScript though? How does it
I have no idea. Treehouse, it's like $25 a month.
I like free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
free's great.
Free is good.
Code Academy is JavaScript free.
Reddit just started a Learn JavaScript channel too. That's really awesome.
Talk to Mike Buckberry?
Buckby?
Yeah, Buckby, yeah. Because I think he actually have a list of all the
places.
codings that you can learn online, and I think the majority of them are free. And that's
Or
for Ruby
just-
on Rails and then some. And plus, I know they constantly, I think once a month, they get together and they just code on it.
Okay. Or just become really good friends with a developer or developers. They'll tell you. They'll show you.
I'll tell you to Google it.
Yeah.
We'll tell them.
Okay, well, thanks, Dan.
That's what we'll say.
That's it? Okay, cool. Thanks.